Hi everybody, welcome back to another edition of Grass Studio Modelers. I'm Dave Forrest, this is my good friend
Harvey Low.
And in today's episode, we're looking at a BR20.
Yes, does everybody know what a BR20 is without showing the model at this point?
No, please explain.
BR20, actually I don't know what BR means. Anyways, a BR20 is an Italian medium bomber from World War II. And people know that I build Italian and Japanese aircraft. And so I'm going to talk a bit about the BR20. Now, before I start, do you have a BR20?
I do.
You do?
I do have a 48 scale classic airframes.
Yes, and I do too.
Yeah.
So right now, the only games in town for a BR20.
Actually,
yes.
Sorry, just to say that was a kit that Bill Dingle gave me.
A 48th BR20.
Yeah, he knew I was looking for one.
And he went out and got you
and he
one.
found one, and he got it for me.
Oh.
And that's just, again, that speaks to the man's character.
Yeah, rest
right?
in peace, Bill.
Yeah.
Bill passed away, about a year ago?
About a year ago,
yeah. We miss him dearly.
So,
wow.
Yeah, so that was, that'll...
You will build it.
I will build it, and that'll have a special place. For
That's
sure.
great. Yeah, so they do one in 48th classic airframes.
They do, yeah.
And the one I'm talking about is the 72nd one in Italy, which is an old kit. It came out in, I think, the 70s. In fact, what you'll see on the screen are a series of slides, and the first slide shows the original boxing of the Fiat BR20 by Italy in 1/72nd scale. And you can see this box art is classic 1970s.
So that was the best.
That was
the golden age of model box art because they showed planes in combat.
Yeah.
And it was like
Action,
fire and explosions,
violence,
and violence,
yes.
and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was a great time.
It was. I mean, did you? How many people out there buy a kit because of the box art? I admit I do. I do.
Yeah, of course.
And it may not be the best kit, but the box art is just so. I love the box art from those old KB Aurora.
Oh yeah.
They are so, especially the Bruget, the French.
Yep.
I just buy them because that's some classic. The
It's
Gotha.
around here somewhere.
The Gotha?
Yeah, I have it here somewhere.
You have too many kits,
I
Dave.
don't have too many kids.
Yeah, but so it's really like you say the classic time, and this model is the only game in town in 72nd, and it still holds up well. So I decided to...
When in the 70s did this come out?
I'd say 74, mid-70s,
74, okay.
73. So it's not exactly a new kit at all in any respects. But anyways, I just wanted to talk a bit about the. Here I am doing the. Okay, so I'm back. I'm just doing some script here. Okay, now what you'll see in the second photo is the newer box art of the BR20. So Italy reissued it under the Battle of Britain.
Italians didn't fly in the Battle of
Yes,
Britain.
they did. Yes, they did.
Come on now.
So the BR-20s, BR-20s flew in the Battle of Britain, and they did bombing missions against targets in England. And the BR-20 flew in the Battle of Britain, as did the Cont 1007. They flew as decoy bombers without armament. And you may recall in a previous episode I did one in 48 scale by Alpha Flight, which was actually a crazy build. But the model has not changed in its mold. It has stayed exactly the same.
So just a pure reboxing,
It's
nothing added?
No.
Okay.
No, but the one I'm doing here today and showing you today is the original boxing. Not a lot of references. And this slide shows publishers in Japan, Perawasi. They do fantastic references. This one here is on the Key 21 and the BR-20.
Ah.
And they do one on the IDA, the Key 36 and Key 55, Key 51 reconnaissance aircraft. But they do a number, they don't do a lot, but what they do is exceptionally good. Exceptionally well researched. And I've had this. I bought this reference to do a Key 21, and it had the BR-20. I had to do it. It's kind of fitting that you see on this cover it shows both the Key 21 and BR-20 because just a quick history. The BR-20 I'm going to show you is going to be in Japanese markings, as this cover shows on the reference. Yeah. So they flew in China. 72 aircraft were delivered by the Italians to the Japanese in around 1938. They served with the 12th and 98th Sentai in bombing missions against Chongqing and Langzhou. And apparently they did fairly well, but some of the armaments on the aircraft were not deemed as best as they could be. So ultimately, they were pulled from service well before Pearl Harbor, and they were eventually all replaced by the Ki-21 Sally. So that's a short history. Because the Ki-20 Sally is a much more modern aircraft. But they saw combat in China under 2 Sentais. And the one I'm going to show you is one of the Sentais in the markings of the Japanese Army Air Force. So let's take a journey down there and talk a bit about the model. The model built out of box doesn't mean anything, but this photo shows I did a bit on the cockpit because the cockpit's actually wrong. It had this crossbar for the steering yoke and the steering wheel. See the styrene crossbar I did across there, and I put a little map table and a new floor in the. Other than that, the kit is fairly accurate. And believe it or not, as you'll see in the model, the surface detail is actually quite good. It's not it's not recessed like them, but the rivets are
nice,
very nice. Here's another angle of the.
Now you wouldn't see much anyways. I mean, I know we'll take a look at the finished model shortly, but you won't see much through the.
I know it's there.
You know it's there. We have photos of it, but truth be told, you're not going to see too much through the.
No, and in the back you don't have to do anything, as this photo shows. It's a very, very basic aircraft from the interior in the 72nd, right?
Now would you, not to put you on the spot, but would you approach this differently if it was the 48 scale?
Absolutely.
You would go more detail.
Great question. So I am working on the 48th one, and I'm also doing a Japanese one. And that one, yes, I'm doing a lot more than this, and in fact, I'm opening up the bomb bay. Because the reference gives you really nice pictures of the bomb bay.
Right.
And it was very intricate with wires and, So I thought, this one doesn't have the bomb bay open because it's basically out of box except the cockpit. But yes, you can see it. And it had a door, eh? And so I'm opening the door on the 48th one. And the door is in the cockpit.
Right, okay, I can see it.
Right? You can see the door. I'll show you the model later. You can see it in the picture in front of you that on the bottom... part of the left side of the fuselage, there was an access door. And so I had to build that into the 48th, but on the 72nd I didn't. This photo shows the interior painted up. Now, I kind of had to guess at some of the colors, and I chose these. Now, they were probably delivered in the Italian colors of the interior of the aircraft, which could have been...
Well, they wouldn't, yeah. I mean,
right?
That's part of the manufacturing. Why would they repaint it?
Why would they repaint it, right? So I'm taking a guess, and, the colors I'm using are clearly fictitious. Now here's a photo that shows the masking. Now, here's the thing. A lot of the aircraft that you would do, if you're doing a transport, they have windows. I always mask the windows from the inside before I put the fuselage together. It's just cleaner to prevent the paint from going in, and then when I put the fuselage together, I'll lift off those masks from the outside.
No, I don't. How do you mean?
You see in this photo, you see the yellow. This is kabuki tape over the windows.
Yeah.
So I put them on after I finish the interior. I put the fuselage together,
right.
And then if you were to look at the model from the outside, you would see obviously the kabuki tape showing through, preventing the paint that you're spraying on the aircraft from getting into the fuselage.
Right.
And then after I do all that, I then remove the tape, obviously, from the outside. And it just...
But how do you... So at what point do you fix the transparency?
You are on top of things. So I don't use the transparency. Very good. And so I use, in this case, a 72nd scale, I use the crystal clear, and you can use any type of white glue.
So, okay, right? So at this point, there's no transparency, it's just masking tape.
It's just it's a hole.
And you put it on so that you can get at it from the outside and pull it out.
Yes.
And then
you add the crystal clear.
Okay, so you'll talk about that.
Yes.
Okay, let's pause on that. And get to it later.
Anyways, a few more shots. There's a rivet tool that I used to re-rivet parts of the fuselage where I eliminated the rivets. And again, there's the nose. Now, by the way, if you have the 48, do you know what version? There's a BR20 and a BR20M. Do you know what version you have?
Good question.
The BR20M is the version that saw action at Battle of Britain.
Yeah, I don't think it's that one.
Okay. Yeah. That's the rare one. If you folks out there have
What's
a
the
BR
difference
20,
between the two?
the nose here,
Ah.
it's a different nose. But if you have the classic kit with 48th, the BR20M, it's extremely rare.
Yeah, it's not that one.
It's very rare. So don't just give it away or trade it. It's very hard to find. The regular one is much more common to find. But if you want to do a Battle of Britain one, it has to be the M. Right?
Now these masks are. Did you make these or?
Yeah, I just made them. I actually made them on my
Silhouette cutter?
Cameo silhouette cutter. Like what I do is I take if there's a pre-existing mask, then I'll use those. I believe they make a mask for the BR20 Italy, but I just kind of design these on.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. You noticed I put the turret in first. A couple of aftermarket I did use was I added some radio equipment from these brands here, and I added some new tires.
Nice.
Out of resin. Other than that, it's pretty out of box. You can see here a picture of the undercarriage.
So the undercarriage is the kit undercarriage.
Yes.
Nice. Okay.
Yes. So the wheels were a little bit rough, and I had them, so let's use them. And I did replace some of the supports with styrene here that you can see. So
the wheels turn? Can you roll it around?
Yes,
the
they can.
Really? Wow!
Yeah.
Look at you.
You add the sound.
Nice.
You know.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. That's authentic. New Bombay and landing lights on the underside. Other than that, it's actually a beautiful kit. These are photos that show that you do need a bit of putty, but just a bit. Just a bit.
Yes.
To me, a putty.
Well,
reverse masking. So your episode on...
If I have to use that much putty in a kit, let's just...
Well, I'm not using Edward Deckles with the film that lifts up. Look, Japanese markings, all you need is a circle cutter, and boom.
Yeah.
You done.
That's the nice thing about them. Nice and easy.
Yes.
Obviously, they were thinking of modelers when they chose their national insignias.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Obviously, that was so good.
And believe you look at this kit. It's classic Japanese markings. The white band is a ID stripe for Japanese aircraft, and there wasn't much else. And you'll see in the kit. See again, these photos show the application of the Hinaru.
Now, did you use your actual circle cutter for that, or is that the silhouette?
I used the circle cutter.
The circle cutter. Nice.
You can use all sorts. We have a circle cutter what's the company? I forget.
I can't remember.
But Despate makes one, Olfa makes another. There's quite a few of them on the market right now. The markings were chosen from the Cora set, as you can see here. And they've got some lovely decal options for BR20s. And you can see the camouflage here is Italian.
Yeah.
With Japanese Sentai markings.
So going back to the discussion we were having about the interior colors, if they didn't change the outside of it, they're certainly not changing the inside.
I don't think so.
No.
I'm guessing, but hey.
I don't think, no.
I choose these obscure, unlike you, 109s and Tigers. But
yeah. Because typically they painted the interiors for anti-corrosion.
Yes.
And just for making, for visibility, so they're not going to muck with that.
I don't think so.
Right?
Why would they? It's too much work.
I agree.
Right? So, again, unless somebody comes out, well, that's not true. This photo show.
Oh my God! Look at the
right?
fine airbrush work on that.
Now, everyone asks me how you do the fine. You know what the secret is? First of all, really good airbrush. I have
no coffee.
Yeah, lots of coffee.
Lots of coffee.
Okay, so number one, I use Awada. I love Awada airbrushes for this type of work. I have a custom Micron. Okay, so I'm better than everybody else. And I have a HPBC.
HPBB.
Yes, I have that. That's what I used on this one.
HPB.
I didn't use a custom Micron. Paint.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
so
paint and mixture on this one. Paint and mixture is everything. If you have Gunzi paints, the acrylics, there are two streams of paint from Gunzi. The old acrylic from Gunzi from the 80s and 90s are very colorful label. Okay? They're different than the modern Gunzi acrylics.
Oh, yeah,
it's a different formula. Believe it or not, the old ones, if you have a few and they're still good, oh my God, keep them because they spray beautifully with this type of work. I'm not saying the new ones don't, but the old ones just seem to work. And what I do is, when I do find work like this, I got a good airbrush, I got the Gunzis, I find them better than the Tamiyas for this type of work, just me, and I thin them really, really, really thin. Like 70% thinner to 30% paint.
And what are you thinning?
I am using, here's my mix, I take a Gunzi paint, and it's about 30%. The rest of the thinner of 70% is about half with distilled water and isopropyl alcohol, preferably 70%.
So you don't think with leveling?
No.
Really?
No. And I add a couple of drops of dish liquid.
For surface tension?
Yes. And then the airbrush is set at an extremely low PSI, around 8, maybe even lower. And you're going in real close. And you got the humidifier going if you're in a very humid environment. And don't do them all at one time because your eye will play tricks on you. Take a break. Yeah. Just do a few.
Sensible. That's amazing because I would then. I'm a big believer in lacquer paints.
You are.
And I just think, I mean, you can't argue with the results, but I don't know that I could get that. I'd have a chance of getting that with lacquers. I don't know that I could do that with your mix. Yeah. Well, because I just find things dry on the tip too long and or too quickly, and you get a lot of splatter, and I haven't figured that part out. But with lacquer paints and the leveling thinner,
because the leveling thinner has a retarder built in, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So it just keeps everything moving, right? So it doesn't dry as quickly on the needle. I find, but
I don't have to use retarder with this. And here's an example of the camo. Look.
That's great. Yeah. Like I mean, you can't argue with the results.
There's very little overspray.
Yeah.
Right.
That's fantastic.
And people say, well, that's you as an artist. Well, nah, I'm cheating. I got a nice airbrush and, I got the mixture down.
But it looks, I mean, you see it here, and again, off camera, I'm looking at the actual model, and you have a better picture of it here right now. Amazing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. It looks, it looks amazing. Like it looks, very realistic. There's no overspray. That's a tight pattern. It's well done, Harvey.
Thank you.
Well done.
And to answer your question about the windows, here's this
here we go.
See?
Okay, so how
there's the crystal clear. Now is the final step. Once I've done everything, even the final coat of semi-gloss, then I apply the crystal coat. So with a toothpick.
So walk me. So you have this hole.
It's a hole there.
Right.
Remove the tape. There's a hole.
There's a hole. So how do you get? So walk me through how you do this.
So round toothpick. Use crystal clear, don't thin it, just right out of the bottle. And you start with enough to fill the edges first and work your way in from the edges to the center of the window. And then you kind of rotate the model to let gravity kind of like allow the crystal clear to settle.
Oh, when you give me grief for using Edward decals?
Well, it works because you'll be there forever if you're trying to cut clear acetate to fit into that.
But what about the transfer? You get transparencies of the kit. What's wrong with those?
They're too thick.
They're too thick.
They're too thick. I find them too thick. And if you are a bit of a freak to getting all the interior in, it doesn't work because that clear part is a long strip of.
With just the.
It's thick. And then you can.
But in this case, you're not.
No.
So why would you go this route?
Just because, I just figured it's
Harvey,
a lot easier.
Harvey being Harvey.
Well, you know what though? But if you use the kit part, and you look closely, there's actually a tiny gap between the clear part and the fuselage. Do you know what I mean? It's not perfect.
I see. And
there's a gap there. Whereas with this method, the whole window fills.
So all you do, just to make sure I understand this, all you do is you have this hole, which is where the window is, and then you just work. So you're doing this. You're not doing this in stages. You're doing this all in one go.
One go.
And it's wet. Yep. As you can see here, the whole thing. And you're just building it up, and there's surface tension just kind of.
Yeah, you move it around, rotate, and just fill. It's quite easy to do. Now, I've been able to use this technique on even 48th windows. I'm doing a Japanese Key 57 Topsy. It's a conversion. They had passenger windows too, and I can get. It's almost like almost a quarter of an inch. If you just fill the toothpick up and you work it really fast, and you can actually fill a fairly large hole.
Interesting.
With crystal clear.
Interesting.
The only thing is, I think we did an episode on this. I did the Cont 1015 Italian aircraft with cockpit windows. You need air in there for the glue to settle. If it's an airtight fuselage with no air and you're doing the canopy, the problem I had on the Cont 1015 is the last window to be filled will never set because it needs oxygen on the inside, and I had to drill holes into it. It's still weird.
So how do you manage that?
This one had holes in the fuselage from other areas of the aircraft, like the Bombay, the Bombay mechanism. I left holes in there, and it filled them. They were tiny, so it let air into the fuselage.
Okay.
And plus, if you see the turret on the fuselage, it's got an opening in it.
Ah, okay.
With the gun.
So not an issue on this one.
Right. And you'll see that it's not bad. I mean, it's a good effect for 72nd. Here's samples on screen, and I'll show you in a moment what it looks like in the camera. But there's the finished model with, quite frankly, what I consider to be beautiful Sentai markings that Cora give you for the aircraft. And
just on the tails.
Just on the tail.
Tailplane. Yeah.
So other than the camouflage pattern, it is Japanese markings, but it is an Italian camouflage. So quite an unusual mix.
Nice.
Of Italian camouflage colors with Japanese markings, and you can just quickly see these photos when Robert does the final edit version. That the finished model.
Did you put any filters or like a wash on this?
I did.
Okay.
Tiny bit of raw umber.
Raw umber.
Thank you, Dave. I forgot to mention that. And essentially the same colors. The colors are essentially, not to get too deep, they're time colors. Sand base, which I used a mixture of AK paints to get a sand base. There's actually, if you go to Stormo, they give you nice color references. Stormo is the online Italian beautiful site.
So are these specific Italian colors, or did you just find something?
I actually mixed them myself.
You mixed them yourself.
But you'll find a lot of references on which colors.
Because they kind of look like late war German.
They do.
AFV
They do.
Right?
So again, the only thing is the dark brown and the green are Gunzi, but the base coat is AK. The undersides were natural aluminum, and you can use anything. I think I might have even used Tamiya AS12.
Oh yeah, that's great.
I love it. Right out of the can, man. Yeah. And so now that's the end of the photos, and here's basically the model. I don't know, Robert, can you get a shot of that?
I gotta look at these transparencies.
And you just use a template, no pulling off film. You can see the original surface detail of the Italeri kit. It's actually quite gorgeous.
Yeah, it actually looks quite nice.
It's a 70s kit. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Okay, it's rivets. It's a bit raised, but at the end of the day, you got something for the aircraft. I think the tail Sentai markings are just gorgeous. They really add some flavor to it. And I just coated it with, you can't get it anymore. I coated it with Model Master Acryl. I mixed their gloss and flat.
So this is a hole that you left on purpose?
Yeah.
Is there supposed to be another gun in there?
No.
Okay. Just a single
just
gun?
one. Yeah.
Just one?
Yeah. And you see the cockpit, you can see stuff in there.
Yeah, you can.
You can.
You're right.
So I had to do it.
Very nice.
Right? And the antenna is your...
Those transparencies do look good.
Which one?
So the transparencies do look good.
See? Look.
I'm surprised.
Yeah. Unlike your honorable mention 109, which you'll get, for your decals silver. But anyways. But they're not clear, but they'll work in 72nd scale, and they do kind of work on 48th too.
Huh.
Right?
That is amazing.
And this kit, outside from the interior, there's the bottom, there's the natural metal. It's essentially out of box, except for, again, the wheels and the interior and this little thing I replaced.
For the navigation
lights. Navigational windows. It's a beautiful model. Went together. But if you do build these, you got to watch these little things.
Oh yeah,
they break.
Counterweights. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll break them if you're.
Same thing. I got to put some on the 109, and I haven't. Obviously, wait right to the end. I'm surprised that I haven't broken off the pitot tube that comes.
I always do that.
Yeah, it hasn't broken yet. Knock on wood.
And I am doing a 48th one of that right now.
The classic airframes, special hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nice. I can't
Same pattern.
Oh, really? Okay.
Might be a little easier in 48th than 72nd.
It looks great, though.
Right. When you are doing these patterns, study photos, because I found that the pattern was not always uniform across the aircraft, probably because they were sprayed by different ground crew.
Yeah, or they get tired.
Or they get tired and they slip. But these Italian aircraft are just mesmerizing for me for their beautiful finishes. So there you have it.
Very nice. Well done. Yeah, I'm a believer in your transparency method there. I'll have to give that a go. Maybe.
That's why this is not an honorable mention model, David. I'm just saying. Just making that comment. I'm just kidding. I think
Well,
that, yeah.
Yeah, well done. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
And is this in a magazine anywhere?
Yeah, it's actually in Scale Aircraft Modeling.
Okay.
I believe it was in one of their issues in, believe it or not, Time Flies, 2022.
Okay.
But it's all in there. I'm sorry. If you search BR20, my name, Harvey Low, and type Scale Aircraft Modeling, you'll
Beautiful.
find it.
Beautiful.
Thank you for that.
Well, that's well. Thanks for walking us through that, Harv. Very compelling build.
Thank you.
Learned a few things on that.
And we'll do a few more in the future.
Sounds good. All right, everybody. Well, that's it for this week's episode. We'll come back with more builds from Harvey.
Your Messerschmitt one.
And my Messerschmitt 109. Maybe a little bit more on the Tiger, but
we'll do what we can to keep these episodes going when we can.
Exactly. Take care, everybody.